it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, I suppose. It's pretty early for me. The sun actually hasn't even come up yet. But yeah. I'm streaming with OBS today, so we had there's a little bit of a learning curve there. So I hope everything's going all right. We have music now, and I have a little bit of a different layout. It's just there's some weird stuff going on with like scheduling that I hope we can resolve in the future. Okay, so it's getting started with the Peru. Crap. I have to actually make sure that the stream is visible to everybody. There we go, I hope. I hope that is working. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Just confirming that the stream is looking all right. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going while everything is confirmed. I'm looking at where I am with the Peru. Last week we were doing, like, focusing on the head. I might still do more of that today, but I think I want to try and get some of the body worked up. Just so it starts to feel a little bit more resolved overall, and we can get some of the necessary details in. I think probably the forearm is what I will focus on for right now. Just a second. Excuse me. So I am going to pull up some of my refs. Let's take a look at some arms. Probably this is going to be a good starting point just to start refining the anatomy. Yeah. Give me back this window. What do we got? We need to make it always on top. So we'll just go in. I'm gonna start going in on the anatomy, I think. Just roughing that stuff in on the arm and see how far we get. Because the arm is one of the more complex structures. And I'm not sure, I'm actually not sure if I'm going to keep the Z-sphere stuff going here. I might be able to turn it into some like quick, like basic bone shapes. I told my, it's kind of funny because I was saying in one of the earlier streams that we weren't going to do like a full like muscle reconstruction for this. Hey Dasher, good to see you. Sorry the stream is a little bit late. I think I accidentally started the stream on private because I'm learning how to stream through OBS. So trying to get rid of those little mistakes. Yeah, so I said we weren't gonna do like a full like bone, like kind of a crochet approach where you start with the bones and then you add the muscles on top. But considering like how it helps with the forms, I might still do like a hybrid approach. Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to go. I'm not gonna like get overly concerned about everything as I would with like a more strict like muscle reconstruction on something, but I think it'll help kind of speed things up and get my forms in there really quick. So I'm gonna try that. I'm just gonna make a group for the arm because I know that this can get a little complicated. Oh, and I'm going to check. I wish I could make a note. I don't have a notebook handy. But I need to make a check on Islander. You were wondering about the length of the jaw in relation to the skull, right? So I'll check that against the skull data that I have. Yeah, the music's really cool. Islander. I've been enjoying it so far. I haven't listened to like, I don't know exactly how long the track is in terms of like just a single part of it, you know? But what I've been hearing is really nice. Hey, what's up? What's up? Welcome, welcome. Okay. So I'm gonna get that. So that's well, that's what I'm calling the tricep right now. It's just a blob. And then this will be my deltoid. Is this a chupacabra? No. That would be crazy, right? If the chupacabra was actually like some weird alligator creature. That's one thing that I think would be fun to do, like maybe like a series of sculpts with, maybe in the future. Not anything like Echoes related. I'm just talking about like personal stuff, personal projects, like some sculpts of like cryptids would be fun to do. See how like realistic you can make them. So I'm kind of just approximating the length of the muscle, like how far it goes down on the arm, based on the diagram and based on just the proportions of everything. Let me see, where's the Peru data? It's like Purussaurus doesn't actually have any bones that were recovered for the limbs, at least not the front limb, so it's kind of hard to gauge. So I will do the best I can, and then we'll kind of, you know, through comparison and just seeing what the design, you know, what feels good for the design, we'll figure out a proportion for it. But right now I'm kind of just guesstimating best I can. Tricep, and then we want the bicep in here. Dasher, random question. Have you played God of War? Yeah. I'm actually a pretty big God of War fan. I played God of War on the PS. It came out on the PS2, right? So yeah, I played pretty much all of the like mainline God of War games. I haven't played any of the. I think there was stuff on the PSP and things like that. I haven't played any of those ones. But like the main, like 1, 2, 3, and then the newer ones on the PS5, right? PS4, PS5. Those ones I played. They're really cool. I've always liked. I guess you would call God of War like a character action game, right? Or like, yeah, I think so. It's like in the vein of like Devil May Cry and those sorts of games. I'm a big fan of God of War. I really like I like Greek mythology a lot. So having a game set in that setting was really cool. There's lots of fun like creature designs in like mythological creatures in the Greek mythology, and then the creature designs that they did for pretty much all the God of Wars are pretty cool. I tend to, it's kind of hard to say, I guess. I definitely like the more like realistic kind of grounded direction that the newer God of War games went with in terms of like visuals. The older God of War games were a little bit, I mean, they were kind of over the top, I would say. A little bit more stylized. Yeah, I like the God of War games a lot. Pretty epic too, right? Like one thing that always stood out to me about God of War is like the vistas that they get with their environments and stuff, like huge statues, huge like distant like, you know, temples and stuff that they would do in their environment always felt really cool. Their like set piece boss battles were also really nice. I feel like they didn't, maybe that's something I kind of miss about the newer games, because they do have those set pieces, but I feel like they're not like as memorable maybe as the original trilogy. Because I definitely remember in the first game that Hydra was really cool. But I can't really, other than like maybe like a dragon fight in the new God of War, I can't really remember any like super cool ones that stood out. I don't know. Let's see. For the other side, are you gonna mirror the leg? Yeah. The reason why I don't have the other leg in here is because I just, like, if I were to come in here and start working on the inside of the leg, right, this other leg would be in the way. And I don't really want to, it just gets, you know, it gets on my nerves basically. So I don't want to deal with it. So I'll put that, I'll flip it when I have like a decent like version of the mesh ready, and I'll do that later. But for right now, he's just gonna have one arm. So I got these. What are these? These would be the extensors. Okay. I'm using like kind of simplified anatomy, right? It's not gonna be, it depends. It's hard to say how far I'm gonna take it, but for right now it's just simplified blocking of like big anatomy, you know, yeah, anatomical groups. I'm not doing every individual muscle in the, especially in the forearm, because those can get really complicated. Taking a look at my reference and making sure. I'm looking at this purple grouping here, the lower right, because that's the underside of the arm. Marakui, I wasn't in the second stream, and damn, it looks so cool. Thank you. Can you show us the head for a second? I want to take a look. Yeah, sure. So last stream was, yeah, focused primarily on the head. So we refined the head shape a little bit, added in all the jaw muscles and stuff, and then we did the teeth which I think helped a lot. And like near the end of the stream, we did like a quick eye lid. Still lots more to do on it, but yeah, I think it's coming along pretty well. It's definitely we're starting to see like, you know, the like how threatening the croc can be. I think the Puro, I mean. This really quick because I don't like how the geometry is starting to fight me a little bit. Where the heck is it? There it is. Oh, that's dense. There we go. Oh. Keep groups. Maybe a little bit more dense. Okay. Evolution hexagon. Looks like you're really capturing what makes Puru Puru. Thank you. The huge head, thick neck. Yeah, I definitely want to keep... That's something I try to do with every like creature I reconstruct. Is like trying to find identifiable, like, I guess you would call it like their signature sort of characteristics, right? And then using those characteristics to kind of play them up just a little bit, just to kind of give them more of a identity. And it's different for every creature, but yeah, definitely the head on this guy is something I want to make sure is kind of highlighted. It's really unique. Getting these flexors in. This is one kind of easy thing to do with Zeed. Well, at least if you're like meshes like this, especially for bones, it's pretty easy just to come in and like smooth little sections like this, and then you get like some pretty quick bone sort of shapes, which is really nice. So I don't have to work too hard to get those in there. At least like basic versions of them at least. Because you can definitely take this pretty far if you like. Each of these little segments could be separated and turned into their own meshes, and that's how at least I would go about making individual bones for a mesh like this if I were doing like a complete skeleton. Are you planning on adding any speculative or more stylistic features to the Peru to differentiate it from normal reconstructions of the animal? Trendy fish. there's definitely things that I think are going to be pushed, and there's things that, I mean, there's whole sections of the animal that we don't really have, right? In terms of like the whole end of the tail is pretty much missing. Certain elements of the limbs are missing. There's not very much that we know. Like there are a few of these osteoderms here on the belly section, but nothing else really on the animal. So who knows what the orientation of any of the osteoderms on the neck and like upper torso are going to be like. So I think there's a little bit of room for some interpretation. Like I'm not gonna, like I was talking about just a bit earlier, like there's certain characteristics that I like to kind of exaggerate for an animal. I think for Puru, we can see exactly what that will be, but definitely, you know, the shape of the head, some aspects of the teeth, like the teeth are already like slightly bigger than the actual reference material. I've exaggerated those a bit more, but I do want to play up certain patterns in the teeth, the way they kind of rise and fall and which teeth are emphasized over others. I'm going to adjust, and there's definitely some fun stuff we can play with along the body, like making certain osteoderms like sharper or taller. So there'll be definitely be some fun stuff like that we can do. Like I was trying to take into consideration like what the creature is going to be doing in the game, like, and then also the overall tone of the project, right? So making design making design decisions that will support that. Like, you know, if the game has a horror, you know, element to it, so how do you make something look scarier, like more threatening? Things like that is what I'm trying to consider. And that affects some aspects of the anatomy. It might affect the way that like the colors look. You know, it might even go to some elements that I don't even have any input on or like control. You know, I'm not necessarily contributing to those aspects, like the animation or sound for the animal, stuff like that. So I'm going to start working some of this area because you can't really work on the arm unless you incorporate some of these shoulder muscles here. And then we also have the scapula to take into account, which would be kind of small, but it's here someplace, like right here. And we got the latissimus going up here. Tetsi, will males have big sharp scale patterns that pop up more? Or will male displays only be color based? I'm not sure. Because that's got a little bit of like what am I trying to say? It's basically two versions of the same mesh, right? One with slightly altered geometry. So I would probably have to work with somebody who knows like how that would actually be implemented in the game, you know, so that way we're not like wasting resources, right? Because you'd essentially have two of the same mesh just for a slight body variation. So there's elements of that I'm not actually sure how they would function in the game. So I would have to consult somebody on that to actually get that to work. It's a cool idea. I'm definitely thinking about like differences in male and female colors. But yeah, I think that would have to be a slightly bigger conversation. See if that's something we can actually do and how that's actually done, because I don't think I've prepped a model in quite that way for a game just yet. They're getting the pectoralis in here. So I'm looking at, where is it? This area here. This part. These muscles, the pectoralis muscles, are actually pretty big. Or they're like long and flat and take up a good portion of the chest here. Much longer than I think I would have thought when I first started sculpting like reptiles and stuff. They actually come down pretty good portion of the torso. What's going to be cool is I think I'm actually going to go to like a reptile exhibit today, and they should have some pretty good examples of crocodilians there. I may be able to even get last time I went there, it was a couple of years ago, but they had like skulls and stuff of a few different types of reptiles and even birds. So I may pick up one. Last time I picked up an alligator skull. So I may pick up a different type this time, just to keep for reference. That should be fun. What's really surprising about, because I've actually been able to touch and like get really close to an alligator. And what's really kind of unexpected about them is the skin texture is actually not what I expected. At least I was expecting it to be very like tough feeling, very like hard, I guess, like kind of like armor. But they're actually very soft. It was really surprising actually. Like maybe soft isn't the right word. It's like you can definitely tell that the skin is super durable, right? But it's not like it's not like hardened, shell type texture or anything like that. It's much more soft. So I think that's already starting to come together pretty well. Even just this little kind of quick massing in of forms here. Even when I look back at it, he's starting to feel okay. Maybe a little bit too muscly. I don't know. I don't want him to feel like a Hulk croc or something. It's okay though, like for right now, I think, because I'm just trying to figure out where the muscles are, and then later I'll kind of settle them into the body. Like they'll kind of, once I'm able to work on the arm like as a whole instead of just like individual pieces, they should blend into each other a little bit nicer. So I'm coming back to the hand. The mesh, like when it's really low like this, it's very reactive because there's such few points to manipulate. So I'm trying to be like kind of gentle, because very easy to go overboard with something and kind of screw the mesh up here, and I don't really want to have to redo stuff. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. I might have to change some proportions of the fingers, but for right now I think it's okay. And this is looking a little strange now. This would get really narrow, right? Because this is basically starting to become all tendon. It's kind of hard to work with. My roughs in here, I'll take them off to the side. Yeah, this is starting to become all tendon in this area. So I don't know if I should actually represent that. I don't think I am. Not like in a ton of detail right now. I'm actually gonna, once I get the mesh like merged together, I'll kind of incorporate the tendons into this mesh here and not really worry about them as separate things. Dasher, are you using clay to add geometry? No, I don't, not really. Like in terms of like the brush I'm using, or like the insert mesh brush, like this stuff. The way I'm adding geometry is just like by pulling on the mesh, right? So if I pull out the mesh this way, to make like a little tendon or something, you can see that there's a lot of density here. So each of these little squares is a poly. So where the mesh is more dense, it's easier to sculpt, and where it gets stretched out like this, it's less responsive. So what I think of adding geometry is actually when I pull a mesh out like this and I need more material to work with, I'll either like remesh it or dynamesh it like I am here, which evens out the topology, and it actually makes the mesh easier to work on. So now I could actually go in and like detail it, or yeah, move things around much easier. This got pulled along with that little example that I did. Oh, sorry guys. I am a bit tired, I'll be honest. I did not get a ton of sleep last night. That's all right. What is the model, gator or croc? I think it's technically not either of those. It's technically more closely related to caimans than crocodiles or alligators, I believe. It's one of those kind of, it's one of the most interesting things I think about learning about like prehistoric animals is the the relationship they have to modern animals, if they even have modern relatives at all. Sometimes what you would think is like closely related to something isn't as closely related as you would have imagined, right? Like this guy is basically a giant caiman, where modern caimans are pretty small, at least in relation to alligators and crocodiles. They're pretty small. Like Rex and chickens, yeah. Black caiman and gator have the same short mouth, right? Yeah, I mean, they roughly the same shape. Let me see. It's definitely much, it's definitely rounded like an alligator is. Let me see if I can find a good example and pull it into my ref sheet. It's kind of, I'm not super familiar with caimans, but you can kind of see this here. And if I go and I grab an alligator, top down view. The thing is with the alligators, I feel like they have there's kind of a bit of a waviness to their like their mouth, their muzzle, or whatever you want to call it. It's not as like scooped shaped as the caiman is. Like they have this like dip, right? And then the round part, whereas the caiman is much more like shoe shaped. But then again, it's like, I don't know. There's some individual variation and stuff to take into account, but generally that's how I like to think about it. Let me erase these marks here. I need to actually get more caiman reference into my ref sheet. Right now it's mostly just like anatomical stuff and like general crocodilian feature stuff, not anything super specific to caimans. I'll probably do that more so when I start getting into details. Saltwater beast. Avimitra. Yes, as far as I know, dwarf crocodile is the smallest croc, where saltwater and Nile crocodiles are the biggest. Yeah, that seems right to me. What will even be able to fight this thing? That's a good question. I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything that I don't know has been announced yet, right? I'm not gonna be out here giving spoilers. So I'll leave that to Islander. tube. So I said I wasn't gonna do every little tendon and stuff, but I think these hand muscles kind of just need to be addressed that way because they're so small and they're a very specific shape. Setting am I looking for? Size, that's what I need. Okay. So now the head's getting in my way. So I'm gonna turn the head off. And the teeth. Okay, so you guys are having fun talking about all the potential dinos and stuff going into the game. There's definitely a lot of potential with like different species. That's, I think, one of the fun parts about a game like this. Seeing what species to actually like use and place in a niche in the game, and then figuring out different gameplay mechanics for how to make it unique and viable. That's all really cool. Definitely not easy though. So there's a muscle that's kind of interesting. It goes from the thumb to like the pinky area, like the base of the thumb all the way over here, I believe. But it forms the pad of the kind of big palm pad of the hand. So I definitely want to add that in there. That's okay. I think I'm going to add one more muscle group here because this area is feeling pretty empty. And I know there's this, I think it's called the supinator. That goes here. That needs to, it'll help me fill out the form. I mean, it's there anyway, you know, that's a real muscle that goes there. But instead of trying to like build out the form from nothing, I'd rather start with an actual mesh. And that'll actually give the arm like a nicer shape, I think. It doesn't have like a hollow area or a dip there. That looks pretty funny. Just an eyeball floating in the air. Okay. It's not looking too bad. Let me... I need to overlay one of my sketches in here. This one. And this one. Brush, and then it'll let me go. Yep. We wanted to check, I'm going to check the size of the jaw and stuff. Just really quick. I do think I'm just going to take a wild guess and say that maybe the head is slightly larger than it maybe should be. Not larger in terms of, like, I added mass to it, right? Because I was sculpting on top of it. So it may be like a tad bit, there's a bit of thickness added to every part, right? But I think the proportions are still there. I just gotta find the landmarks that I was using. So that seems okay. It's a little bit, I need to bring back some of the roundness in the snout here. But then I'm going to check the jaw as well. So I don't want to, I got the scale right, and I don't want to move anything. I just want to move the reference to the mesh. And yeah, I mean, it's the right size. This is, it could be thicker, like top to bottom, because that little area needs to be filled out, I mean. But yeah, I do see, so this is responding to a question that Islander had last stream that I didn't see, about the length of the jaw, the lower jaw. And I do see what you mean, right? Because I think you're looking at the skull and then seeing like the this angle and like how the mouth would close up. So I see what you are concerned about for sure. He is gonna have an underbite, or I mean an overbite. Majority of crocs do. His isn't actually so bad. Like when I was working on my Sarco, the overbite on a Sarco is crazy, and it looks kind of goofy, right? But that's kind of just the way the animal is. We could do something where to make it like a little bit less, we can do stuff like this where you can kind of scale it and kind of push it just a bit, so that way that mouth closure doesn't look so it's not so overhung like that. It doesn't overhang as much, I should say. But yeah, that's kind of the way they are, I think. But we can adjust that more, kind of finesse it when we get into the detailing, and kind of really make sure that the mouth closes up right, feels right with the skull and stuff. I'm actually gonna take a little bit of that mass off right now, just because I'm here. So I want to take off just a little bit of, where's my curve? There it is. Nope. Just a little bit of that. I think we're okay. Did the proportions mess up a bit? The head is the size of the main body. I don't think so. Where is my... Like I'm not saying it's not a possibility. It could be. But I don't really think I changed I think what happened is the tail is a little short because the tip of the tail was like Dynamesh, and it got really thin and I cut it off. So the tail should be, see the tip of the tail there's cut off right here. So this should be longer. But in the head in proportion to the body seems fine to me. I think this leg needs to go back. But one thing about proportions is we can dial them in. they're not like set in stone. But yeah, I don't feel like the head's gotten super massive. The thing that has happened though is the jaw muscles contribute a lot to like the let me launch my pen. The jaw muscles contribute a lot to the mass of the head. So I think what you may be seeing is this stuff here, like adding to the weights of the head and like the perceived space of it, because it feels like the head is this big, right? But this back here is a lot of bulk. It's not actually part of the skull. And the other thing too, it's kind of hard to judge, right? Because we don't have a ton of Purussaurus's body. So you could maybe make the body like longer or shorter. Not shorter. I wouldn't make it shorter. But you could make it longer and not really I feel kind of uncomfortable doing that just based off of like eyeballing, because I'm wondering what you know, what the reason for that would be, other than just like to make it bigger for the sake of being bigger. It's one of the reasons why I was trying to use the one of the skeletal reconstructions. That's where the proportions are pulled from. I'm not sure I should, I don't know if I want to build in that ridge just to like say where those osteoderms are going to go right away, or if I should just worry about the anatomy, or just do that later, soften it up a bit. I think I can merge. Yeah, I'm gonna merge the body with the neck, so we don't have a ton of like little meshes. Or maybe not do the jaw muscles, keep those separate, but the jaw, I mean the neck and the body itself can get merged now. That way I can work on everything pretty smoothly. There we go. And then now we can blend this out. This area is going to be a lot of fun. Like I kind of like this area of the neck down here where it gets some nice like interesting wrinkles and overlaps. I think I have a reference of that somewhere. Like all this stuff in here. It's pretty cool to me. I might have a better one here. Or I can get one. Yeah, this stuff is pretty fun too. So we'll try to incorporate that kind of stuff, because I think it'll look good on the model. What program do you use to model? I'm using ZBrush right now. but I use a lot of different, well, mostly ZBrush and Blender to model, depending on what phase of the model I'm on. The music definitely makes the stream much better. Yeah, it's nicer not to have like a bunch of silence. Marakui, remember the bigger the cooler. Pretty much always take a look at Gustav, for example. Who's Gustav? What is that? Who is that? A railgun? That explains why I didn't know what it was. I'm definitely not a... Guns and vehicles are not in my... they don't fall into my realm of interest very often, I will say that. The funny thing is, I think, like looking at my refs, this area could probably get much bigger, but I don't know if that would benefit the model right now. Because one other thing I'm looking for is like gesture and like flow. So if you look at the model right now and like think of things as like thicknesses just going down the model, this thickness is pretty much maintained down the whole length of the model, which I don't think is necessarily a good thing. I think what I might want to do, the head is pretty non-negotiable, right? Like the proportions of the head need to stay the way that they are. But I think what we could do is flare out the rib cage just a little bit to get a little more volume there, I suppose. They do it in the reconstruction as well. The rib cage is definitely much wider than I have it here, so we'll probably do that anyway. And then by that, the base of the tail can get wider. And I think because one thing that's kind of throwing me off right now is the width is so even down the whole body, it's causing this area to feel really thick. And I don't think it is really thick. I think it's just that this area is so thin, like in relation. If you thicken this area up, this area starts to feel better. So that's what I'm going to do. Just so there's a little bit of interest in the silhouette also. Gustav is an extremely old and large Nile crocodile. Notorious for killing 60 humans, he has an almost mythical reputation among people in the region. Oh wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, I had no idea. Let me look that up. Gustav crocodile. Oh, okay. I've seen this picture. That is a gigantic crocodile. Yeah, for sure. That is crazy. Yeah, I didn't really know about that. That's cool. Some fun facts, I suppose. It's crazy to think that a modern, like, I always feel surprised when I see like the actual sizes that modern crocodilians can get to, especially like alligators and like the saltwater crocodiles, the Nile crocodiles, because they're still gigantic. Like that picture with the crocodile, you know, like next to everybody is huge. If it's, I'm assuming it's real, right? It's if that's what the croc is known for, being huge and also killing people. I wonder if they actually share the measurements of how long he was. Exact length and weight are unknown. Estimated could be 20 feet. Way more than 2,000 pounds. Wow. Over 60 years old and still growing. That is insane. Babadoge, Gustav is on the level where he's bullying hippos when usually it's the opposite. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, because you always hear about hippos having that ability to like snap a croc in half or with their jaws and stuff. So for a croc to get big enough to like scare a hippo, that is crazy size. I think I'm gonna merge the tail down too. That way I can work on everything together. Yeah, I think it's around about that time. evolution hexagon. Speculated that it grew too large to hunt. So he turned to ready, available, and slow-moving humans. Wow. And that's also interesting, right? A croc could get so big that it actually kind of impedes its own ability to hunt effectively. I don't think I've ever really thought about it that way. It always just seems like the bigger you are, the less you have to worry about, right? But I guess that mass would take a toll on your body. So what I'm going to do, just to give a little preview, I'm going to duplicate the arm. And then we'll just mirror this over just to kind of show what it'll eventually look like, because I know it's kind of strange to just see him without his other, you know, the other side of his limbs. I don't want to do a weld. I just want to temporarily mirror it. You can kind of get a feel for what he's going to look like once the arms and legs are mirrored over to the other side. And he's gonna feel much better once we start getting the that's actually the part I'm most excited about, is getting the scutes, or sorry, the osteoderms on the back and stuff. Maybe we might be able to get to that next stream, or like the beginnings of that, because that's always really fun, is like figuring out the layout of those scales and like how big they are. They really impact the silhouette of the croc a lot too, because you can start to get the cool shapes starting to happen on the back and stuff. And then also like the shape of the tail is gonna be fun. Figuring out like what exactly these guys are doing here, and how big they are, and like all that cool stuff. It's gonna be a good time. But We got to get all those basic shapes in there first, or else all that other stuff going on top is not going to look right. I do think I'm gonna start indicating some of these major wrinkles, especially on the neck. Just to start getting a feel for it. I don't want him to feel super, what's the word? The skin needs to still feel like really thick. So I don't want it to feel really like, I guess, too loose or like saggy. There's like a certain amount of, I guess, tension would be the word to it that I want to maintain. Let's see. Positive potato, missed a stream or two. Done with the head aside from the textures. Looks incredible. No, not really. The head still needs a lot of work. What's basically there is just like a block-in for the like I would still consider this all pretty much block-in phase. So we're still working with the basic shapes of the anatomy and stuff, trying to get all of that established before any of the details go on top. So the head is basically like skull, like semi-refined skull, not too overly detailed or anything, and then muscles blocked in to get some of the forms. So it's not really that far along. Like normally, like if you consider, so we're doing 2-hour streams and we've done 3 so far, right? So technically this is going to be a total of 6 hours working on the model. So if you were to break that down into just like the span of a day, like a normal work day, right? All of this stuff would have been done in like on the first day. It's just, it kind of feels, I don't know, it's kind of interesting separating it out like this. But yeah, I haven't done any work on it outside of streams, so it's kind of like one interesting part of the stream to me is that it's kind of capturing how much time it's actually taking me to accomplish like a model. So which is a useful bit of information, at least for me, because it helps me see how I guess efficient I'm being, right? I've done that with, like, I've recorded my work in like for time lapses and stuff, and I've gotten a pretty good feel for how long it takes me to do something, but I've never like broken it down like this. I'm curious, once you get proportions and everything for scales, you just pour them over the model like a color and a normal paint? No. Yeah, that's definitely it's this is actually going to be much more. So there's two approaches. There's like for a dinosaur, I think it might be more similar to what you're thinking, the way that scales are applied, in that like dinosaur scales are like much more uniform and they cover larger portions of the body in more uniform areas of scale. So you can actually get away with doing like procedural scales on the surface of the body for a good portion of the mesh. But for something like a crocodile, their scales are just so different and unique across the body in smaller sections. So like if you look at the face, right, that actually has like this crackled like bumpy texture. So that's kind of one thing. And then this little area of the face has a different kind of texture there. And then like the neck and kind of the belly have similar textures, but they're all like very large and very unique. And when you have scales like that on a body, it's really hard to apply like a procedural approach to it, because it'll end up looking repetitive and like mechanical. So really, at least in my opinion, the only way to kind of get the right look is to do majority of it by hand. There is stuff that we can do to like speed up the process. Like I'm considering making a few different tools that I can use to kind of get majority of the scales in fairly quickly, but then like customize, like sculpt on top to customize them. But yeah, with crocodilians, I would honestly say that they're probably one of the more difficult reptilians to sculpt, simply because of the way their scales are. They're so unique, I think. Gotta say, for like 3 streams, each 1 to 2 hours, you've done crazy work. Thank you. Now that you say it, how does it work that creating new dinosaurs for the Isle, for example, take like a year of work? I'm not actually sure. I can't really speak to, I don't really know the process of how they go about making their dinos or anything. I mean, I know one of the artists that works on the models. I've worked with them several times. But ultimately I don't know like exactly what, because it's not just the actual sculpting of the model, right? That's one portion of it, but it's also like the game mechanic, like getting all the animations done, getting the sounds done, any like what would you call it, like different like skin textures that people can customize, and getting a good variety of those in there. And then I believe the Isle has like growth, right? So like you would have to sculpt either different versions of the same model at different life stages, so that way they can be blended together, which would take a lot of time. So yeah, it's like one thing to, like, if you're just thinking about just the modeling aspect, I would say knowing a bit more about the people working on the project, that it would take a similar time to how fast I'm making the model. But yeah, the rest of the implementation of the game takes a lot of work, I think. Yeah, like yeah, once this model leaves my hands, there's still so much stuff to do on it that I can easily imagine a model, like a new character going into a game taking, at least several months, maybe, to like get it all refined and ready to perform in game well. But then, yeah, I don't know like entirely the ins and outs of, like, each studio that I've worked at has a different pipeline. They have different ways of going about things, ways of exporting things, all that stuff. I don't think I've ever worked there are certain things that are like kind of standardized, depending on like maybe the engine that you're working with or software that you're working with, all that stuff. But ultimately every game kind of requires its own sort of unique attention. I'm starting to dial in a little bit more of the secondary shapes on the model, just to kind of get a little bit of that started. This is actually, this is one of my favorite brushes that I have. It's actually a really simple brush. It's just like the normal standard brush. But it has a little bit of gravity to it, so it'll actually, when I'm sculpting on the model, it'll actually pull the, like a wrinkle for example, down in the direction of, well, gravity, quote unquote, but it's not gravity. It's like it's pulling it down in the direction of the screen, so down on the screen. But it gives the effect of like being pulled by gravity. It's one of my favorite brushes that I have. It's one of like the very few custom brushes that I've made. Although it's not very custom. It's just like one setting that I changed. Eva Draconis, if you add symmetry, one side different from the other, asymmetry, sorry, one side different from the other, it looks awesome. When it's sitting like the Isle Dinosaurs and the Isle when it's sitting on the lake. Are you talking about animations, like different poses? Trying to find a good side view of a croc with, like, I'm looking at these guys here. They're just like kind of lounging around. They're pretty bulky, especially like the top of their limbs are pretty rounded. So I'll get some of that in there. Battle scars and stuff like that still pretty far in the process, but of what I heard, okay, you guys are still talking about IO stuff, I think. What is going on with my pen? Alright, I'm gonna start seeing if I can get some progress in on this leg before we end stream today. What approach am I going to use on this? Sorry if you can hear my little dog whining in the background. She's about ready to go outside. One thing that's really cool about the croc legs too is these scales that pop out of the edge here. I think I'll definitely incorporate that and maybe exaggerate it just a bit. I wonder if there's another example in my ref sheet of that. Yeah, these guys here. That's gonna be fun. I'm gonna try to indicate that just a little bit, like a ridge here. That way I know where I can put that later. Dasher, are you using PureRef? Yeah, that's the reference image like organizer, I suppose, that I'm using right now. It's super useful. I don't know if you've used it. I like it a lot, especially like this new version seems to have added a little bit more. Well, there's just some functionality that I've been using on it that I didn't use in older versions. Like the drawing on stuff is useful. But yeah, this is the way I kind of organize my reference sheets. You can see like I try to like cluster stuff together in different groupings depending on what detail I'm showing. I use PureRef, and then there's a couple other programs that I use for like organizing references. Miro is a cool one if you're like working in a team and you have like a lot of references that you need to like share and like look at and take notes on and stuff. That's a really nice one. And then another cool one just for like organization, like I have a ton of reference material, and it's kind of hard to keep track of it sometimes. So what I've started to use is this program called Eagle, I think. Eagle, yeah. And it lets you, for those of you who like maybe have used like Adobe Bridge or like a program like that, it's kind of like a image viewer sort of thing. But what Eagle lets you do is you can like organize and tag images into categories, and you can actually like use those tags to search for specific images. So it requires a little bit of setup. Like you kind of have to be diligent about tagging your images properly, so that way they're like actually descriptive, you know, and actually useful. But if you do that, it becomes like your own like little private search engine of like very specific reference material that you need. So I have one I basically use it for all of my dinosaur stuff that I'm maybe like a few like personal projects that have bigger reference libraries for them. But yeah, those reference organizers or organizing tools have been really useful to me. What do you think of giving the tail more muscle? Is that what you mean? Chunk near the hip. Seen it in the Isles Dinosuchus, and it really makes it look chunky. Just an idea. Yeah, generally the like crocodiles are pretty thick in that area. I do have, I don't know if I have it in this rough sheet, but I do have like a cross section of crocodile like tail muscle. So I will be definitely adding more here. It's just I haven't had a second yet, but it'll probably get much bigger here, especially on the first. Usually with archosaurs, if you look at the tail in terms of like thirds, the first third is really thick, because this is where the muscle attachments are happening from the tail, the base of the tail attaching to the thigh. So there's muscles that run from the thigh to the tail and like anchor, and these actually pull the leg backwards. So all of these muscles attach to the base of the tail here, because the vertebrae have these things called transverse processes, and these transverse processes are where all of the muscles are going to attach to, but they only go down the tail a certain amount. So you can kind of tell where the tail is going to be thickest because of these transverse processes. I'm not sure where they would be on Purussaurus, but like this is just like a rule of thumb. There are definitely dinos and other animals that don't follow this rule, so you always really need to double check. But like in the absence of good data, I think this would be kind of a reasonable approach. So yeah, this tail section will get much thicker, I think, especially at the base. We can do a little bit of that now. I need to find that reference, which is why I kind of haven't been putting that in right now, because I don't want to like, I don't want to fudge it, you know. But from what I remember, it's so there's two tracks basically of muscle on the tail, two main ones. There's a muscle that runs along the top, or actually I think there's a big muscle that runs along the top here, and there's a smaller muscle that runs here, and then on the bottom there's a bigger muscle here, and then all of the, you know, the muscles that are coming from the thigh inserting into the base of the tail. So that's why I'm creating this sort of division between top and bottom. So you can kind of see it. Let me see if I have a good crocodile ref from the side. Yeah, kind of here. It's cut off, but you can see the you can see right here the division where those muscles are, and there'd be another muscle, a couple muscles up here. This is the center line. So that's what we'll do. Oh no, don't worry, Babadosh, you're good. No, I like suggestions. It's totally cool. And like, you know, you guys don't know. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in my head while I'm working. Like I'm always trying to like plan for. I guess like plan ahead at like what am I going to do next and what am I going to do after that, and of course, you know, you guys can't read my mind, so you don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this certain part of the body yet, unless I say it. So yeah, that's no worries there. Like if I that's kind of why I just clarified, or not clarified, but like explained what I wanted to do there. Because I think it's interesting. Like it's definitely interesting anatomically, right? At least, like I always find that aspect of, I guess reconstructions really, really cool. Like that's one of my favorite things about working on creature designs, It's just being able to work with the anatomy and like learning new anatomical details and facts about all these different animals. They kind of built up over time. So you could like in terms of like comparative anatomy, you can really use a lot of this crocodile anatomy that I'm implementing and learning here. I can use later on in a dinosaur or a dragon or whatever. Something like that. I definitely, I kind of want to see the extent. I'll probably get like a good reference, a better reference at least of a top view of a croc or something, because I still want to kind of finesse this silhouette from the top down. But I think it's starting to work. It's definitely more interesting, right, than what we had before. Like if you remember when I was talking about like the thickness of the body and how it was like pretty much one thickness throughout the whole thing. This is, I think, an improvement because it's actually moving. It's got like a wave shape to it. It's starting to work much better. So we'll keep, I wouldn't say it's like 100% where I want it to be. We'll keep dialing it in. Hey Zip, how are you doing? Zip Wolf. I'm trying to like, I see I'm starting to see kind of familiar faces in chat, and I'm trying to like remember names. So if I like repeat a name multiple times or like to myself, it's kind of like me trying to learn it, right? Just in case somebody pops back in a future stream. I'm usually pretty good with it's definitely hard online, right? Because you don't have like meeting somebody in person is much easier. I'm pretty good with faces, especially if I can associate a face with a name, then I definitely remember them. But if I just have a name to work with, it's a little bit harder. Okay, so the end of the stream snuck up on me. I'm just gonna do a real quick flattening of this. Yeah, thanks guys for coming to this stream. I'll give you a look at the Peru as it is right now. What might be interesting to do, actually, give me 1 second, because I can actually load the previous version of the Peru from last stream. We can kind of compare. That's kind of funny, right? It's just a head. We only had a head last stream. Okay. So that's where he was. And then progress from this stream, that's where he is now. So a little bit of back and forth. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out so far. You know, definitely a lot more work to do, but it's coming along. So thank you guys for coming to this third stream. I think we'll continue to move forward with the streams as they are right now. I'll schedule one out for next week, next Saturday. So if you guys want to join in and see how the Purussaurus comes, develops in that. I think next week I'm going to try to finish up the limbs and then see what we can do about getting into maybe some detail. I'm not sure. We'll see how far we get, but that would be the plan. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for news on Echoes. I'd really appreciate it if you guys haven't, if you're new to the stream, if you want to take a look at some of my other work. I have links in the description for my sites, my social media and stuff. So if you'd like to take a look at those, they are there. And yeah, thanks for coming out to the stream. And I'll see you next week. Okay. Bye. Thanks everyone. Thank you.